The portfolio generates, just in terms of rental income, just over the 21 grand a month figure.
Meet Ollie. In 2018, he was stuck in a corporate job earning £25,000 a year. And just 5 years later, he now owns 32 properties that make him 10 times that amount. So in this episode, I'm going to be breaking down the exact strategy he used to go from 0 to 32 properties, and how you can start even if you have no experience, a load of savings, or a network of property investors. By the way, if you're interested in following a similar path to Ollie, there is a completely free course that you can access in the description that will teach you the step-by-step process on how to actually get started in property. Ollie, well, thank you for joining me on the podcast.
No, thanks for having me, Jack. Looking forward to it, mate.
Yeah, me too. I think your story and your journey, the portfolio you've built, is definitely interesting. So I think it's going to really be a lot of value to people. So for anyone who doesn't know who you are, what you do, could you give me like a snapshot summary of Ollie Hindle?
Yeah, my name's Ollie. I'm 32, originally from Norwich, but moved up to the northeast, so live in Middlesbrough. So yeah, good old Teesside. So yeah, got into property not including university times, but 2018. So yeah, I'm a property investor and developer, working the Teesside region.
Amazing. And what does your portfolio look like now?
So it's quite boring, I'm not going to lie. All single lets, no HMOs, no service accommodation.
Sometimes boring's good though.
Well,
Sometimes boring's good.
Yeah, it's predictable. It's kind of somewhat like reliable. That might not be the right word, but yeah, kind of like predictability. It's more passive than what an HMO portfolio would be. So yeah, we're at 32 tenanted kind of, not units, homes. So yeah, it's a good kind of solid base of single lets really.
Yeah, so you've got a portfolio of 32 properties. How much does that, for people to kind of try and wrap their head around that and maybe quantify it a bit more, how does that look in terms of like monthly rental income? What are you turning over at the minute?
Yeah, so monthly income from what the portfolio generates, just in terms of rental income, just over the 21 grand a month figure, with an average rent being circa 650, 660-ish, that kind of level, rent-wise. Across the 32. So that's sort of income-wise what they generate. So it's not fancy big numbers on these HMOs or anything like that, but it's fairly plain and simple buy-to-lets.
Yeah, amazing. And where did it all start for you? Like, were you born into a family of developers or like entrepreneurs? Like, what did early life look like for you? Yeah,
so growing up in Norwich, grew up, had a great upbringing. To be fair, Jack, my parents, awesome, great relationship with them. Had a nice group of friends that I'm still close with today back in Norwich. But yeah, my parents, they're not in the business world. My dad worked for ITV for 40 years. Mum, NHS job, medical secretary. So they're not property people. They've owned their own home. But for them, it's been more about, you've got a stable job, you pay off your mortgage, and yeah, which is good. It's stable, and that's maybe the old way, and probably maybe the right. There's no rights and wrongs, is there? But that's what they've done, and yeah, that's kind of sort of my sort of upbringing, and yeah, kind of where I've sort of come from and things like that. So there wasn't a property background really as such.
My parents were similar, very almost traditional, if that's the right word, of like 9-to-5 jobs, teachers, and a good salary. Own their own home, really committed to paying that off, and that was the way they wanted to live, and yeah, I wasn't brought up in that environment either, so I can definitely relate. At what point did you what piqued your interest then? So if that wasn't your background, if that wasn't the people you were around, at what point did you go, actually, why don't I venture into property investing?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think I'd probably seen that obviously having a good kind of stable job is good in terms of it's safe, it's secure, sort of the salary, the pension, they're probably quite appealing things that are good to have, but maybe somewhat restrictive at the same time. And that wasn't really that appealing to me. I kind of wanted something that was a bit more kind of optimistic, a bit more, maybe not ambitious is maybe not the right word, but something that would...
outside the normal mould, maybe.
Yeah, outside, and sort of kind of sky's the limit in terms of your income's not going to be set at a certain level. Yes, there's going to be risks and difficulties along the way and sacrifice, etc. But I wanted to have a go at that, and had an idea from hearing about property as a kid as to, Joe Bloggs down the road or whoever, he owns whatever properties he might have, or he's well off, or he's wealthy, whatever. And I think from a kid, I sort of associated that to kind of being able to, sort of do more, maybe have nicer things if that's what you intend to, and if that's what you want to have, or have the freedom which property probably, well, it can give you if you want that. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, Jack, but that's sort of it does, where it came from.
Was there a person that maybe brought it to you? Like, because it's quite an unusual thing for someone to just kind of go, oh, do you know what? I want to do something where I'm going to build something for myself beyond just what my salary could give me, beyond working for somebody else, what that could give me. I want to build something for the future, wealth, passive income, all that stuff. Quite often it's a person or an event that kind of makes you go, oh, actually, that has changed the way I think. Was there somebody, or was it more just personal interest and diving straight into it? Yeah,
no, there wasn't a specific individual. It would be quite good to say, there was this bloke or this lady, and she sort of like spiked my interest and thought, property's going to be for me, I'm going to go for it. Unfortunately, there wasn't that one person. I think it was maybe as a kid, kind of growing up, sort of having a paper round, working at the local pub, washing up and things like that alongside school, and just realising that you can work all hours under the sun, but your earnings are always going to a degree, depending on what profession you do, and things always going to be that bit limited, perhaps. So yeah, maybe it didn't come from a specific person, but it was maybe personal experiences that I was going through in my earlier years to think I wouldn't mind doing a bit more than just the normal kind of job, perhaps, but there's pros to the normal job as well. So I'm not obviously knocking it.
Yeah. So when you got into property, when was this? So you said 2018?
Yeah, so 2018, set the company up, and then subsequently started buying in 2019. But I went off to university in 2013 and did estate management. So that was like a commercial surveying with a little bit of residential stuff going on as well. So I guess you could say sort of property interests were sort of going to university back then. Yeah.
Amazing. And then from uni to that first deal, what did that look like? What were you doing?
So university was good. It was an estate management degree at Northumbria, which is a RICS accredited degree. So a lot of my friends are now qualified chartered surveyors, which is good to see them what they do, and that was what they wanted to do and set out. Unfortunately, I didn't follow through. That I probably should have done my APC, like the assessment of professional competence to be a chartered surveyor, but sort of got distracted with sort of some deals in 2019, 2020, and I got sidetracked really.
Yeah.
The APC went out the window. So let me think. So graduated and then worked for Taylor Wimpey, the PLC house builder. That was quite good because it was on their graduate scheme. So it was like rotational. So you go across the different departments within a 2-year period, and then when you come off the graduate scheme, you can sort of stay in the department that you want to, which was land and planning, which was interesting and it was good, but it was quite. I struggled with it, to be fair, Jack. It was like PLC, red tape. The way that my brain works is, it just didn't really align very well. And so I was there for, I'm trying to think, 2016, 2017, around then, until got made redundant from them in 2020 or 2021. I can't quite remember now. Around that period of time. But yeah, it was a good employer, enjoyed working for them, great knowledge, great to sort of see house building on steroids on the sort of big scale side of things. But no, I did enjoy Taylor Wimpey.
And when you say land and planning, were you in like the acquisition side of it, or what did that involve? So
yeah, exactly that, mate. So it was identifying sites, looking at their planning kind of prospects, the likelihood that it's kind of, there's two parts. There was immediate sort of short-term land sites that already had planning permission, were being sold on the open market with like a Savills or equivalent. But then there was the long-term sort of strategic side of land where they would take an option agreement on a long-term sort of, might be a site in the Greenbelt that might not realistically come forward for sort of 10 plus years. They would secure it under an option agreement, promote it through the local plan, etc., with the view that they'd hopefully get planning permission at X amount of years down the line, and they've sort of buy it at a discount, etc. So I was more strategic, which was longer term, which is good. It's quite like you're sort of seeing future land that might come to fruition, but it was also not very exciting. Some of these sites didn't come forward, and you're thinking, God, it's like a 15-year option agreement. In 15 years, I'm going to be Christ knows how old. Yeah. And I just sort of wanted sort of more kind of here and now. If that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Out of interest, is that why you got into buy-to-lets and already built properties? Because it surprises me that you had that experience and didn't get into land sourcing, ground-up developments. You know, what was it that stopped you doing that and going straight into the buy-to-let stuff?
Probably wanted to start out small and lower risk and just understand the process, and just ultimately buy something that isn't going to kind of blow up in your face. I mean, yes, there's a lot that can go wrong in property, but if you're buying stuff that's discounted, you're paying the right money for it, you're sensible with how you refurb it, where you spend your money, what the end value is going to be, whether you refinance or sell it, there's not too much that can go wrong. Whereby I knew from here, seeing stuff that Taylor Wimpey, where stuff occasionally, not very often, did go wrong and does go wrong for smaller developers. And I just wanted to start off small and kind of go from there. I've still just do small scale buy-to-lets, but it's now more focused around maybe looking at portfolios and things, but it's still the same fundamentally. It's still the same of buying 2-3 bed terrace and semi-detached houses. So hopefully maybe the land stuff development bits come on in the future, but probably a little bit risky for me in the earliest stages, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then so you dived into property. What was deal number one? How did that begin then?
So deal number one, it was a place called Thornaby in Stockton. Kind of a semi lowish value area, as often some of these sort of areas are, to make the numbers more attractive in a way. It was bought for 88 grand, and it was a modern method of auction. So it wasn't a traditional auction with sort of a 28-day completion. It was a 56-day completion, which that was funded through a traditional buy-to-let mortgage at the time, which probably in hindsight wasn't the right product. Probably now would use bridging or cash for that type of deal, funded with the mortgage works from memory. And went in. It was a light refurb. It's sort of decorating, sort of carpets, nothing kind of, spent a few thousand at least, but nothing, it wasn't
cosmetic spruce up.
Precisely, yeah. It was just sort of fairly sensible, bought at a discount. I think there was behind the scenes I think there was a divorce, so they were arguably motivated sellers due to their kind of sort of circumstances, and managed to buy it at 88,000, small auction fee, stamp duty, legal fees, etc. And done a bit of work to it, and I think it valued up at 120, but we had to wait 6 months. So there was a fair uplift for not doing that much work, especially in the short term. And I think, I thought the money would be parked there for a while, but at the time, sort of 2018, 2019, I was starting to learn that your money doesn't necessarily have to be parked in one asset, and you can get those funds back and go again and again and again. Because I think often people think that sort of you buy one asset, it's stuck there for a long period of time, and then you have to save up another lot of deposit funds for deal number two, etc. And it's just a lengthy process. But I think learning that buying at a discount, adding the value, refinancing it, pulling most, sometimes all in a good scenario of your capital back out and going again and again. That was sort of the kind of how the first deal worked, really.
And by the way, if you want to run the numbers on your own property deals, then I'm going to be leaving a link to our property deal calculator in the description for you to download. Yeah, a friend of mine is based in, he invests quite heavily around Stockport, which is an area of Manchester. And he's basically done exactly that. He's built a portfolio of buy-to-lets, buying properties, not even crazily discounted, just discounted enough, doing some fairly reasonable refurbs on them, not usually full back to bricks, but sometimes back to brick refurbs. and then just refinancing them, pulling out some of the money, not all of the money.
Yeah.
But then knowing that even once you've pulled it out, like say you buy it, refurb it, refinance it within a 4-month window or a 6-month window, knowing that in a year and a half or something, or a year's time, you could actually refinance it again just because the capital's gone up. So people often think that, right, when I'm planning out how I build my portfolio, if I want 10 houses, then I need to, how long is it going to take me to save 10 lots of house deposits?
Yeah.
And it's so not the case, because you get the one and you don't realise that not only do you get that one, but if you can lift the value by renovating it, you bump up the value, you'll get your cash flow every month, you'll also have capital growth over time. There's so many ways in which actually just getting started and getting that first one under your belt means that you can do it a lot quicker than you think, because a lot of people start by going, how much do I need to save, as opposed to how much can I make from these deals. That's
important. What you just said there is like spot on, and I think the sooner people can realise that, sort of the better, because people sort of get stuck sort of on deal one because of maybe that mindset and things. But yeah, it can grow and it can scale sort of fairly quickly by doing that. That's a great example of how, if you just do deal number one, the numbers don't have to be phenomenal, as long as you sort of getting in there, it's producing an income. Yeah, you're obviously servicing the mortgage debt. It's doing £350 a month, 400, whatever it might happen to be, and those numbers aren't going to set the world on fire. But if you do a number of those, if you buy well, as you touched on, before you know it, you've got a few of them, and then you might have replaced what you're earning at your job, whatever you might earn, and then kind of can scale from there, really. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So you went from deal one, you bought it, you were able to spruce it up, refinance it within 6 months, or at the 6 month
about
mark.
6 month period.
Yeah. What happened then?
So deal number two followed. When was that? June or July of the same year. So the first deal, was March time. The second one was around July, so around the sort of summer period. So this was pretty much a lot of my funds had gone into deal one. Yasmin, my partner, her funds have gone into deal two, and it was like, right, okay. So that was similar in terms of purchase price level, was at 90. A little bit more of a refurb, where it was like kitchen, bit of plastering work. I think there was some electrical work that went on. I can't remember. I don't think it was like a full rewire, but there was some like remedial work that needed to be done. And it was kind of a little bit more work, but still quite reserved in terms of a bit cautious, to be honest.
Yeah.
Refinanced that for, I think it was 115. So again, a bit of an uplift. We'd spent a little bit more, not an amazing deal, but good enough to recycle out a fair proportion of what was initially put in, and to move on, and kind of got that tenanted. And then the cash flow from deal one and two this is obviously back when the rates were sort of high twos, low threes, so around 3%.
Cool.
That's
nice.
And I didn't realise at the time kind of how good those times were.
Yeah.
But now we're sort of 5, maybe to 5.5%, as they have been over the last couple of years. So those were really good times, and the income from those two was awesome. It was like 400 to 450. The rents were quite strong, interest only, so the repayments were obviously quite low. So I was thinking, right, this is quite exciting, because I'm getting towards what I was earning kind of net from my employer. So I was thinking, right, okay, I don't need that many more of these to keep chipping away, and to hopefully eventually get to the time where I could sort of leave the day job and kind of do this full time. But I knew I needed significantly more than, well, maybe not significantly, but a fair few more than two to kind of to be able to do that.
At what point were you able to do that?
Realistically, in terms of having replaced, I wasn't earning big money at Taylor Wimpey. It was a graduate salary essentially at the time, which then I was earning on the graduate salary 25 grand a year, which was good, as like someone in your sort of early 20s, and then I think it went to sort of 30 to early 30s, having sort of come off that. What that netted back to on a monthly basis was circa £2,000 a month, which was like good money at the time. But so anyway, I would say if each buy-to-let was doing 400, there wasn't, there's quicker ways of doing it if people are wanting quick ways.
But if you can get those 5 under your belt.
Yeah.
At 400 a month profit.
Yeah. And I think a regret that, I know people say, oh, you shouldn't have regrets because it is what it is sort of thing. But a regret that I do genuinely have was maybe not leaving sooner, because the broker that we were working with at the time was really good, but somewhat cautious in terms of, oh, Ollie, you need sort of at least double figures. You need sort of 10 to 12. And I was thinking, Christ, I don't want to keep waiting until, because it obviously takes time. I was a bit more here and now. Can we not kind of get on with this once we've got to like 6, 7, 8? So did what he said, and which obviously then took longer. But I think in hindsight now, looking back, I could have gone earlier.
Yeah.
Because I struggled in that job, as I said to you briefly earlier, and didn't enjoy it at times, and could have gone sooner, which is a bit of a regret. But
yeah, I've got a lot of clients that we work with when we're helping them source properties, build portfolios, manage their refurbs and all that stuff, who have no intention of leaving their jobs. And so for those people, this sort of like, let's just keep going, ticking along alongside the job, or keep slowly building the portfolio, that's great, that's amazing. But for people who are, I need to get out of the job quick, it's important that you really get your plan together of how that's going to work, how many properties, trying to quantify it and actually know, okay, so what stage can I leave? If you're in a well-paid job and your expenses are really high, maybe asking yourself, how can we reduce our expenses so that the salary we're on now doesn't have to be, we don't have to get the portfolio to this salary in order for me to leave. If you're on 36 grand a year, how could you get it so that you could leave your job if you were making 27,000 a year, that sort of thing, reducing your expenses to give you that. If speed to financial freedom is your goal, it is that balance, isn't it? So
it is, mate. Yeah, and it's probably a question that I think we'd like reverse sort of engineered it in terms of how much do you need? Probably need to apply a bit of a contingency or buffer, and then just kind of what does that look like of how many, and then kind of ran it in that respect. But I guess for those guys that you mentioned, if you're doing it alongside a job that you enjoy, it'd be awesome, because you won't need to necessarily draw down on any of the property income. You can keep it there, and then that will generate its own deposits, etc. However you wanted to use it, essentially, I guess. But it could have been done quicker through, say, HMOs. That would have been a prime model to be able to kind of leave the day job sooner. I don't really know why I didn't consider that. I think probably generally due to sort of the Teesside sort of area where HMOs are generally located. It's quite a low value area in comparison to where it is if you were just focusing on the student market. And I was sort of had my head down, kind of blinkers on, buy-to-lets, BRRs only, nothing else. It was just, but that HMOs would have been a great shout to kind of leave that sooner.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it more headache, more capital up front, but actually, if speed is your thing, you have to get out as quick as possible. Then HMOs are great. We do a lot of that stuff. Yeah. So you said that you listened to your advisor and left when you had double figures. So I'm assuming you wait till you had 10 properties before you left the job?
I think we're about 11 or 12. 11 or 12.
Yeah. But you could have probably left if you'd reduced all your outgoings and everything. Maybe like 5, 6, 7 sort of.
Yeah.
Range.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Just thinking for people listening, if they're thinking, right, okay, I'm on a similar salary and I could do with leaving. What do I need to do? What do I need to achieve? Obviously, they need to set their own deals, but that's a sort of an interesting benchmark. If you can get sort of between 5 and 10, then you'd be in a really good position if you're able to sort of like reduce your earnings down to something that works.
Yeah. So it's kind of a like a sensible level. It's not going daft. If you're gradually buying a few a year for a small amount of years, like you'll get there. It's not going to take. It's not going to take ages. You know what I mean? If you've got the capital, or you can raise the capital, then you could probably do it in the sort of short term.
Yeah. I was flipping houses and wasn't holding on to anything, and then got so excited about the amount of money I was making that I quit my job.
All right.
Didn't take any advice like you did, which is probably the sensible thing, and realised only after that can you believe I got into property flipping houses and didn't realise that once I quit my job, I'd really struggled to get a mortgage. Right. So I was like, okay, so that's me stuck now. I'm going to have to just keep flipping houses until I've got enough sort of experience on a company's house with all my accounts and personal income of being self-employed to to show that I'm mortgageable again. How did you manage that when you left? Were you able to just jump straight into it? How did you manage the affordability side of things?
So that was pretty much my main concern, and that was actually the only real main factor as to me leaving, because I knew rental income wise, yes, we weren't making a fortune, but there was enough there to cover my kind of essential needs. And I was like, right, okay, what could I actually afford to live off if like could get rid of this, get rid of that, and I could probably live off, I don't know, £1,500 a month or less, whatever. So I knew I'd kind of tick that box. But the problem that I had, or maybe not the problem, but the thing that I was thinking about quite a lot and in frequent contact with the broker about was, how am I going to exit these bridges? So let's say whoever's funded it on the way in, so say Together on a bridge, they'll, as you all know, lend on the asset more than they will the individual. So if you've got adverse credit history, I don't know, say you've got CCJs or whatever you might have from past times, Together or whoever the bridging lender might be will probably be quite relaxed on that as long as the numbers work on the deal.
Yeah.
But what exit kind of term lenders are out there for me, or say you in your scenario where you've just flipped, what's out there? What do I need to do? And like you come into sort of SA 302s and sort of your tax returns and your company accounts and things, and we just needed to have like a good amount of kind of have filed a good, say, a couple of years of accounts. But then having said that, now there's a different broker we work with, and he's a lot more like sort of telling me what I probably wanted to hear back in sort of 2019, 2020, 2021, where I'll find a lender that's soft on the underwriting and won't put you with somebody like, I don't know, Paragon or the Mortgage Works or whoever. There's lenders out there that are a bit more, maybe not niche, but a bit more kind of relaxed with personal circumstances, which maybe I should have gone with those guys a little bit more. But yeah, maybe it's an experience on the broker side of things where I needed the guidance at the time. So
yeah. No, absolutely. That's interesting. So it's not that it's impossible. You just have to find the right team to be able to have the right contacts with the right lenders and that sort of thing.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's quite easy getting into them. If you're using, say, bridging finance, we were using a lot of sort of buy-to-let mortgages initially, which was probably wrong, but they were very easy because I was employed earning whatever I was earning at the time, which wasn't a huge amount. My partner, she's a director in the business, works for the NHS, so it's quite sort of tick the boxes from a lender's perspective. So yeah, it was a bit of a risk, but unfortunately I waited, took the broker's advice and sort of hung on in there. So kind of there wasn't any, or there haven't, and touch wood, there hasn't been any problems since then. And the problems would have been flushed out in 2021, not now. So yeah, got through that point kind of all right in the end, which is good. Yeah, because it's a bit of a worry.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you just continued, I'm assuming, rinsing and repeating that model of buying discounted, refurbing, refinancing, and churning it out, right? Is that how it's gone for you?
Yeah, pretty much. It's just been a very kind of consistent and kind of gradually, probably year on year, there's been more that have been purchased, but it's been the same model that's just been used and sort of rinse, as you said, rinse and repeat, and just kind of gone from there. I think what I was probably finding was, hang on a minute, I don't have, in terms of income, I don't have another business that was like a cash cow and I can use funds from there. So I was thinking, hang on a minute, that hasn't maybe valued up as what I expected it to, or the refurb, sort of my knowledge was improving and sort of ability to kind of value up what the refurb cost was going to be was getting better. But there were some times where the deal would leave in more than what I'd kind of forecast and like budgeted to leave in that deal. Thinking, Christ, right, I need something else to bring in here to sort of be able to kind of continuously be able to do this, which is when we started got to about deal 4 or deal 5, where money was being tied up because you can't recycle all of your cash on every single deal, because otherwise everyone would do it and it'd be easy. And there are those sort of deals out there, aren't there? But they're difficult to find.
They're few and far between.
Yeah.
They're few and far between.
So that's where kind of flips came in to sort of help supplement and just kind of subsidise any funds that were left in the sort of the BRR stuff at the end of kind of refinancing them.
How did you fund the deposits and the scaling of all these property purchases?
So initially it was very much kind of held close to us, sort of me, Yasmin, and then you quickly realise that the funds just go, deposit, refurbs, fees, etc., and you're sat with an all right balance in your savings, and then all of a sudden it's gone to next to nothing.
Overdraft.
All that, money on credit cards for refurbs, personal loans to fund them, all that sort of thing, just to kind of make things happen.
Yeah.
But then you think, right, this is only going to get to a certain number, which is then when we were able to start raising. Once we'd done a few, it would have been less than 10, but more than 5, probably deal 6 or 7, where it was, we had a kind of a track record, if you like, where we started to work with an investor that kind of he did come through our broker at the time, which was really useful. So that was on a fixed return basis, and that opened my eyes to, right, okay, we can continue to scale things here. It doesn't always have to be your own funds like I always kind of thought it did. That was you look back now and you think, stupid, why did I always think it had to be your own money? But that obviously significantly helped.
Having that sort of dual approach seems to be what everybody that I know who's been successful in property, they all have that. So whether it's so you're on one hand, you're buying your investment properties, you're purchasing, you're refurbing, you're refinancing, you're recycling and stretching your money as much as possible. But like you say, the reality is you are going to be leaving money in deals. And people who, to be honest, I get quite frustrated with people who just sit around waiting for the perfect deal where they're going to pull out all the money. Because I just think if you're waiting for that, you are going to probably do one deal every couple of years, if you're actively looking. Whereas if you're willing to leave a few £1,000s in the deal, then you're able to get going, get started, you own an asset. And bear in mind, when you say leaving money in a deal, you're not saying that money's gone down the drain. It's locked in an asset going up in value and remains as equity in the deal. So it's fine. It's more a cash flow problem than it is I've lost money problem.
Bad thing.
It's crazy how many people think it like by leaving money in the deal that's negative. It's like, no, it's just you just can't pull it out right now, and that's fine. That's okay. But in order to subsidise let's say you leave 10 grand, 15 grand in a deal, that's got to come from somewhere in terms of a cash flow point of view. So for people to be either flipping houses, running sourcing businesses, or something that means that they're able to generate income. Or for a lot of people, it's their job, it's their salary. People, I've got loads of clients who are on very good salaries, or they run businesses, they have plenty of spare cash at the end of the month, and they use that to subsidise what's been left in the deal to replenish the pot and to go again. People who try and do property investing and buy-to-lets, buy, refurb, refinance, without that, get stuck very quickly.
100%. I fully agree with you. There's always people say, all money out and things, and they very, very rarely, like you and I know, that they don't happen very often. No. And we've only had a few, but it's the process of getting started, doing something that leaves some money in, the less the better, and feeling a bit more confident and knowing what to look for next time, and sort of learning from deal one and putting it into 2, 3, 4, etc. And as you said, it's important. It's not a bad thing. No. Just you got to start, haven't you? You've got to, and searching for, like, doing the needle in the haystack approach of finding that unicorn, that one beauty. They are really tricky to come across. So you're better off starting, aren't you?
Yeah, and also, I mean, using an actual example, you could buy something where, let's say you buy it, refurb it, refinance, and the refinance value is £200,000. You leave 10 grand in the deal. You just have to wait a couple of years. That property goes up in value by 5%. You can refinance again and pull that money back out. And still have 25% equity in the deal. So it's not even like once it's in there, it's locked in forever. It just means, okay, for the money that you leave behind, let's subsidise it so the cash flow is still there now. But in a couple of years' time, we'll just get it back out when the property prices have gone up, when they've increased in value.
And you're only going to go up to 75% anyway. You're not going to overly leverage yourself. And so that I don't see there to be a problem. If there was a real problem where you're like Christ, I've spent X amount more on this refurb. I budgeted 15 and I've spent 25 because we've come across X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Or the value at the back end's caused a big problem where it's been downvalued by X amount. You can always be like, okay, well, I can go back to the drawing board, get another lender, so therefore get another valuation, which might turn out to go in your favour. Or you could flip it and just say, do you know what? I hold my hands up. I've messed this one up a little bit because the refurb numbers weren't great.
Yeah.
And the end value I've kind of was a bit optimistic with it, let's say. But yeah, you could sell it and still turn a small profit and learn from it and go again. It's not the end of the world.
What do you think have been some of the biggest learning curves, maybe stumbling blocks along your journey of building your portfolio for anybody who wants to, maybe they've got a couple of properties already or they're just getting started and they're going, do you know what, I'd love to get a portfolio of 20, 30, 40 houses. What are some of the things that you wish you knew back then when you started?
I always thought, like, because I'm not skilled, I can't like anything hands-on wise, whether it's any plumbing, electrical, joinery, plastering, any of that stuff, I can't do it.
I'm with you. I know what a good job looks like.
Yeah.
Just don't ask me to do it.
No, I'm the same as you. But I always thought for some reason I needed to know every single thing about every part of the process to be able to do this properly.
Yeah.
I remember like getting the electrician has done like an EICR, and I was like reading this EICR, trying to get my head around it, like Googling what these certain things meant. I just thought, like, what the hell am I doing? Do I actually need to know this? As long as it's got a sort of a report that's satisfactory.
Yeah. As long as he's a qualified electrician, that's his job. Let him deal with it.
Yeah, but I was thinking back then that I needed to know every single thing about each of the process. And like, yeah, so that was maybe something that I realised is stop doing that. Focus on getting the number, whether it's raising further investor finance, whether it's looking for the next deal or kind of just tasks like that, rather than getting involved with the sort of the detail that the experts that we work with know better than sort of you or I will ever know, because it's not what we do. So that was probably quite a big one. Just trying to think what else. Yeah, it sort of opened my eyes, Jack, big time, where sort of getting external kind of funding on board and sort of like, right, this is different to how we've always structured things here. It's not always coming from myself or my partner. There's bigger deals to be done. And yeah, also probably sort of thinking of your question, doing BRRs is great, and it's a model that we still do today. We've got quite a few in legals which are standard BRRs. But also I realised, I think it was 2022, that you can do this model, but on a portfolio basis. So you can buy a number off a landlord, and you can essentially carry out the same process, but apply it across a number. So buying a small portfolio, that was different to doing it sort of separately, but something that we now kind of actively look to do, just because if you're going to do it on one, you might as well do it on a number at the same time. In a way.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit more risky. You take on more debt initially, you've got more cost in terms of refurb, but then you're going to have more kind of equity and more rental income at the back end.
Yeah, and your calculation's all the same. You just do it across the 4 deals.
Yeah.
If you're buying 4 houses, for example. I mean, what could you give me an example of a portfolio then that you've purchased?
Yeah, so there was one we bought recently, which was 9 single lets. So yeah,
Amazing.
2 and 3 bedroom houses across Middlesbrough and Stockton, from a local chap, kind of a big portfolio landlord, residential and commercial. He wanted to release, so they're all unencumbered, and he's quite a wealthy fella. So whether he got 70 grand or 90 grand per deal, he wasn't. Those numbers for someone like me are considerable, but for say somebody in his scenario, it didn't really make much difference. But they were the fundamentals as to whether the numbers would work. So
yeah, that
was essentially applied across the 9. So the purchase price on that was just shy of 800. I think it was like 795, 796 or something.
Yeah.
And those are valued up close to 1.1. So yeah, it was quite a creative way of funding, where the lender in this scenario was a lender called Glenhawk. They would lend based on the open market value.
Oh, nice.
So they'd leverage you more on day one.
Yeah.
which was 90. They'll either do 90% of the purchase price or 75% of the gross development value, whichever's the lower one.
Yeah.
So that was good because, I mean, I think it nets back to after fees, which were pretty hefty, probably about 85% loan to value. So you're saving a fair chunk, especially with the quantity. Kind of all tenants in situ, so they're already cash flowing from day one, but at considerably low rents. A lot of the rents were sort of 450, 475, and you're just thinking, Christ, the market rent's sort of towards 700. It's going to be a difficult conversation to have with the tenants to get these from the passing rent at the moment up towards where the market rent is.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was an example of a recent portfolio that we've bought that was off market. It was our plumber that introduced us to that seller. Kind of all unencumbered from his side, that we purchased on one loan agreement and have subsequently exited that from Glenhawk with. We've split them across different exit lenders. So some are with Paragon, some are with Lend Invest. But it's worked quite well.
Yeah, but they were tenanted.
Yeah, they're all tenanted.
So how did you manage the difference in the rental income that you needed to?
Yeah, challenging one really. I think the guys living in there, so the tenants realised that it's probably under rented from there, so they knew what they were paying and they knew what the market rents were. So they probably knew it was coming, and I'd actually gone round with the seller, met all the tenants and had the conversation with them, with Ian being present, to say, this is what's going to happen. It's not going to jump up to market rent, but it needs to go up from where it is at the moment. They understood it, and so far it's gone all right. Those 9 properties they've been increased in terms of rent, and they're not at market rent, but they're a happy medium between what they were and where they probably should be. Yeah. So kind of everyone to a degree is happy, I guess. And
long term, you could have another conversation about increasing it again, and as you say, as long as it facilitates the debt and the deal's good, and you then retaining 9 assets that are going to be going up in value over time and cash flowing, and no, you're right, and I think the equity's in them. It's sort of, they were good deals. You'd buy them all individually anyway, so sort of grouping them together and buying a number certainly worked. A benefit as well is you're limited as to what you could do refurb wise. It wasn't like a vacant asset where you can get in and you can rewire it, new central heating system, kitchens, bathrooms. You're obviously limited because there's families living in there, and you can't sort of descend on the place and start going ballistic because it's their house and things. So that was quite good in terms of cash flow wise. You're not outlaying mega money towards the works. But it kind of still proved that if you buy at the right level, if you're buying at a good kind of fair discount, that they're always going to be worth whatever they get valued up at. But you can still do that model, but you don't necessarily need to do these mega kind of back to brick refurbs where you're going ballistic on spending tens and tens and tens of thousands on the work. Especially when there's tenants in there. I mean, that'd be a nightmare.
Yeah.
When it comes to finding the properties, then you said your plumber introduced you, which is a great story of word of mouth and networking and connecting with people. How do you typically find your deals?
Predominantly, they're on the market. There's been some really good ones over the years, like off market. Like you've bought on a street, you've got chatting to the neighbours, and somebody further up the street has been in touch. I've got a terrace house to sell. So the off market ones have probably been the best deals. But sorry to answer your question, Jack. Predominantly on the market, so actively Rightmove, etc. But then also I'm quite a big fan of auctions, so like Auction House, North East or Tees Valley, traditional kind of auction company, 28-day completion. There's some good deals that we've had there over the years. Sort of modern method as well, the likes of I Am Sold, quite hefty on the fee. I think it's sort of towards $7,000 now. Yeah,
they're like 4.5% or 6,600 or something like that.
Subject to a minimum of quite a lot of money.
A lot.
But then if the deal can take it, and
if it stacks, it means you get the discount.
Yeah.
It comes down to everything. It always comes down to this, really, doesn't it? It's does the deal stack? And I get loads of people who, I bear in mind, I'm buying a bunch of houses now where every single one was on Rightmove.
Right.
And that's not because that's the only place I source properties, but it's because I'm always looking on Rightmove, I'm always speaking to agents, I'm always working with auctioneers, I'm doing letter drops, I'm doing Facebook ads, I'm doing it all. But ultimately, where it comes from doesn't matter as long as the numbers stack.
Yeah.
Does the deal stack? Whether it's on the market or not, it doesn't matter. I get a lot of people come to me and say, how do I find these like direct to vendor deals? I'm like, why does it need to be direct to vendor? Like, why are you not looking on Rightmove? Oh, it's too competitive.
It's saturated and all that sort of thing, but it's not.
It's not. And actually, I think what people struggle with is when it comes to Rightmove, I don't know how you find this when you've spoken to other investors, or especially aspiring investors, people who want to get into it. They look at the listing on Rightmove, they look at the purchase price and they go, it doesn't work. And they don't realise, you do realise when you pick up the phone, have the conversation, there's actually some negotiation to be had, and you can get crazy discounts. We got a house secured. It was on the market for 199,000.
Yeah.
We got it secured at 150.
Yeah.
Almost £50,000, 25%, £50,000 below what the advertised price.
See, that's awesome. But then most people, they just discount it and think pointless looking at it because
the asking price is too high.
Yeah, it's too much. But obviously over the years, we've learned, pick up the phone to the agent, try and maybe understand the seller's circumstances without being intrusive. And next thing you know, yeah, as you said, there's a deal to be done at 150 and it might be worth 200 odd now.
Yeah.
And like, it's brilliant, but it maybe takes the experience and being, as you said, picking up the phone and just having a relationship with an agent helps, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not always that you can pick up a phone to any kind of random agent and sort of, you know them from old. It's not, it's all about kind of building the relationship. And it's important that, because that agent who, the deal you've just mentioned there, they'll probably in time to come think of you and might put another deal.
Yeah.
Or might put a deal your way.
Or at least if you've done a deal with them already, when you call up to say, is there a deal to be done? What can we do? What's the situation with the seller? What's the best price we could maybe get on this? If you've done a deal already with them, they know you're not messing around. Yeah. Whereas they get calls like that all day, every day from people. But almost committing to, I always think the first deal I do with a new agent, it doesn't have to be the best deal in the world for me, as long as I follow through, commit to it, purchase it, because then I've shown them I am serious. I'm not messing around here. Yeah. We will buy it, we'll commit, we'll complete quickly, we won't be difficult. And they then go, oh great, that was a nice smooth experience, really, like, as smooth as it can be. So that when you call up and say, hey, I've seen another one, would love to find out more about it, they go, great. And there's that rapport already.
Yeah, however many weeks or a few months prior, he bought this, it was straightforward, it was easy as they can be. Yeah. And they want more of that. And I'm not saying they want an easy life, but
they do.
Yeah, and everyone probably does, really. Yeah. But in terms of for their client, they can say, do you know what? This chap, it was bought however, he bought this one however many weeks, months ago. He did what he said he was going to do. He completed within a good, realistic period of time. Yeah. I'd suggest that you go with him, because we've worked with him before, and it does mean a lot, and that can help definitely get deals for anyone listening. It's important, isn't it? These relationships with agents and sort of being personable and things like that. It goes a long way. Yeah,
you don't have to offer the highest price to win the bid if you've got a good relationship with the agent who can come in and say, we've actually worked with this person. We've got two offers. Let's say we've got two offers on the table. One at 150, one at 145. 150, we've never worked with them before. First time buyers buying on a mortgage. 145, bridge buyer, and we've actually worked with them before. And you know what? They got it through really quickly. Yeah. We've got experience with them. We know what they offer. We know what they can bring to the table. Whereas you're rolling the dice with these guys. A lot of the times, that is enough to get that £5,000 discount. So it's about just doing what you say you're going to do, isn't it? And committing and delivering on your commitments. Yeah,
100%. And I think, it goes a long way. And if this is something that you're looking to do longer term, as the time goes on and you're actively buying and speaking to agents and inquiring and viewing and offering and going forward with what you're saying and buying, etc., then relationships are important, and it goes further than that with your trades, with your solicitor, with your broker.
Absolutely.
It is a relationship kind of business, really, isn't it? So
100%.
Very important.
100%. It's all people. When it comes to managing the properties that you've got, they're all single let properties, but how do you manage them? Do you use an agent? Do you do it all yourself? Is it in-house?
So I manage them all in-house, so it's just me managing. So I am direct to to the tenants. So which has, so where that essentially came from is use a letting agent on a sort of a tenant find fee basis. So let them use their expertise with the vetting, affordability, credit checks, etc. And then at the point of tenant moving in, I would then manage them from there onwards. And I think the initial view with that was, we've done the refurb to this house, it's got a new boiler, it's been rewired, it's going to be somewhat passive. Obviously what's happened then over the years is it's obviously just become a bit more every year because we've just bought more.
Yeah.
And then now it's starting to absorb quite a lot of my time, where it's 32 now, and sort of tenants, and I don't mind, but they get in touch on Sunday evenings and get these calls at certain times during the day when, but then that's my own fault, and it's just simply because it's been head down focused on purchasing. That's always been what we've done, whereby I probably do need to have a bit of a sort of like a bird's eye sort of helicopter view and think, it's now taking a lot of my time.
How much time do you spend on it?
It varies really. The maintenance stuff's quite low. What I've generally found is they're more kind of sort of property maintenance wise. A lot of the older houses, sort of roofing issue, like these old terrace houses that are over 100 years old, and they tend to be more problematical than the stuff that we bought that's maybe a 60s build or whatever. But in terms of, to answer your question, I'm probably making it sound worse than what it is. It's not an obscene amount of time. It's not. Yeah. I don't mind it, and I don't, to save a few quid, I don't mind sort of speaking to tenants sometimes a fair bit, because if it went out to a letting or like managing agent at 8, 10, 12% what per property, going to be a good couple of grand a month. I'd prefer to have that within the business and have a few headaches. At this stage for me, whether that's a longer term scenario, Jack, I probably would want to outsource it, maybe the more challenging ones.
I think it helps that you are full time in this.
Yeah.
I mean, for someone who is running a business or maybe building up a portfolio alongside a job, there is that need to be, there's only so much time and headspace that you can give to building a portfolio. Is those calls on a Sunday night worth it for you at this stage? If your income's coming from a job and you're steady and you're just building a portfolio and you want it to be as hands off as possible, I do see the value in using a management company. But like you said, if you've got I think you've got a great portfolio, but at this stage manageable with the time that you've got, then I don't blame you.
You can see why I'm doing it, can't you? Yeah.
I mean, eventually, you double your portfolio. You take that into the sort of 50 properties, 60 properties. I can see that being...
It might get a bit of a headache then.
Bit more. I suppose it comes down to at what stage does it take over from you pushing the business forward? Does that make sense?
It does, and it's maybe... This is probably maybe one of my downfalls is I've always kind of done everything sort of myself. I haven't really outsourced. So like I've never had, when doing refurbs, I've never had like a builder or one point of contact. I've always, and still do, manage the trades individually. So like we'll have a labourer that's on a day rate of £100 a day for the rip out. And then like I'll speak to the electrician, the plumber, the plasterer, the joiner, the decorator, the carpet fitter, the builder, whoever, all kind of separately. Like I'll say if we're doing structural alterations and there's speaking with the structural engineer, the steel fabricator, the builder to then fit the steel. And this is maybe is sort of limited. What we can do is I've always sort of managed those guys individually, ultimately to save money, to make the deals better. But maybe going forward, especially on the bigger refurbs, I sort of come to realise, especially last year, that for definitely the bigger kind of refurbs that we do, the structural alterations and things like that, probably getting a project manager equivalent or a builder
main contracts
exactly would be beneficial. But that's probably for me to learn, and something I probably do need to do and get better at, really.
Have you done a back to brick refurb?
There's been a few, and they're good in terms of the numbers are often or can be better on them,
drive the values up
exactly more. But they absorb more capital initially. They go on for a little bit longer.
Well, I was going to say, because of that, I'd be interested to know, with your sort of more hands-on approach to managing individual trades, if you think of, I don't know if you've got like an example where you could think of maybe a 3-bed terrace, 2-bed terrace, that sort of thing. How long that took you and how much it cost?
So an example of
back to brick refurb.
Okay, so a recent one that we've got in legals at the moment, which should complete in March. So yeah, hopefully this month. That deal that has cost-wise in terms of the refurb, that was about 48,000. So that was a 2-bed terrace that we've made into a 3-bed, incorporated like a downstairs toilet, which it didn't have before. So just a couple of things that we've done during the work to kind of add value. There was some structural movement. So we did some what's called like crack stitching, which is those heli bars into the
heli fixes.
That's
things.
It. Yeah, that's it. So we've done those. The structural engineer was happy with those. But yeah, did some structural work with kind of opening up a kitchen dining room. So that was quite a bit of work with the refurb being just shy of 50 grand.
Yeah.
But again, the numbers were quite good. So that we've agreed the sale at 220. So it's bought for 122. Agreed the sale at 220. So there's quite a good uplift of best part of 100 grand. But obviously half of that has gone towards the works, which obviously doesn't still include the cost of finance, the stamp duty, the legal fees, etc. But quite good numbers. But with that, the view was to flip it, because sort of at the back end, if you were to run that as a buy to, I mean, it probably worked quite well as an HMO if you knew that from the outset as to that was what you were going to do. But yeah, sort of values up at 220, 75% of that, it wouldn't perform too well as a single let. But so anyway, with that one we've sold it. But those roughly were the numbers, sort of 122 purchase price, 48 grand refurb, buyer at the back end at 220. Kind of a good deal, and the profit from that will just be used to sort of in the business to any sort of funds that are left in the deal with the BRR stuff. It isn't to sort of go and blow on holidays and stuff.
Quick trip to Dubai.
No, nothing like that, I don't think. So, yeah. Yeah,
that's great. And how long did that take?
Oh, yeah, sorry. So we bought that in August of last year, finished it, so it's over the Christmas period, finished it in early Jan and secured
about 6 months.
Yeah, secured a buyer. So I was hoping to be in and out within 6 months. It's actually going to turn out to be about 7. So let's just say it completes this month, hopefully, which it should. Bought in August, sold in March, maybe April, depending on what's going on.
Yeah.
With these final kind of inquiries and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, that's 7 months in and out roughly.
Yeah, that's really exciting. So what is your plan at the minute? What are you doing? How does the next sort of couple of years look for you? And how is your business operating at the moment? And how do you look to sort of grow it over the next couple of years? So
still very much of doing what we have always done. It's not the most exciting, but what I've learned is the consistency and the time are like your biggest kind of friends, if you like, is the more consistent you are and just keep doing it, kind of the bigger, maybe not better, but the more you can do. And that's where the value is, maybe in terms of the time, and let the market kind of do its thing with what happens to values kind of behind the scenes without maybe doing anything, just letting the market do its thing. So yeah, continue to kind of aggressively in our eyes buy. We bought 13 units in 23, a bit, I think it was 7 or 8 last year, so a bit less. But yeah, still look to actively buy very much of the single lets. Haven't got any aspirations in the short term to look at service accommodation or HMOs at the moment. I would quite like to get involved with some development stuff, whether that be the land side of things or commercial conversions. But at the moment, it's still kind of head down, BRRs and portfolio purchases to keep, growing the portfolio and, keep going with that really. Yeah.
Alex Hormozy, if you've heard of him, one of the things he says that I absolutely love is better than new. And it's this idea of like, you could jump into HMOs, you could jump into commercial conversions now, but why not do what you do and just make it better? Because better is better than doing something new. Yeah. And just, I like that you remind me very much of a friend of mine, that the friend I mentioned earlier who's built out a portfolio in Manchester. He just is doubling down on doing what he knows how to do and just make it better and better and better, more efficient, more cost effective, getting better numbers, and just continuing to fine tune this like machine that can eventually just keep churning out properties. And
it's exactly like similar to you said, like your mate really. It's like focusing on what you know, what you understand. Yes, there's better cash flowing stuff out there, HMOs and things like that. And some of the stuff I see of what the investors that sort of are close to sort of me and Teesside, what they do, some of their HMOs, they're awesome. And you see the numbers and you think, blimey. And for a moment I start to get like distracted. I start like looking at some stuff and think, oh Christ, I could make this a 7-bed HMO and change of use and all of that. But then you think, oh Christ, like Article 4. And it's, I do probably need to have a go at one of them so I can comment firsthand and say what it was like. But kind of sticking to what we know, definitely in the short term anyway. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, no, I think you've given a lot of value on this podcast. I've really enjoyed the conversation. And,
cheers, Jack. I mean, hopefully it's come across all right to the guys listening, and it's just sort of a relatable story in terms of sort of single lets, buy to lets, and just continuously sort of done the same thing and kind of been able to scale it up really.
Absolutely. And I think you are a good example of that. I do think, I mean, this is something I suffer from, is this idea of jumping from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next.
Getting distracted.
Because it's so exciting. There's all these different things, all these opportunities. But actually, by doing what you've done consistently for over the long term, investing well, investing smartly, investing in a way where you can do something over and over and over again on repeat, just has such a huge impact. It means that you can make a really big difference by just compounding those small steps over and over again to now something that is a really exciting portfolio that you've got, and something that I don't doubt will grow in something even more exciting in the future. So
no, I appreciate you saying that, and that's good of you to say, and that's the plan, mate. So
so if people want to connect with you at all, if they want to touch base with you, find out more, follow your journey, where can they find you? So probably Instagram or our website, so Hindle Investments. Type that in and on the website, or just me via Instagram. I've started mentoring a few guys. There's 3 at the moment that I'm mentoring. So I was getting a few messages from friends. So one of them's a friend, and 2 are other people that are sort of based in Middlesbrough. Kind of wanting to get started. So of offering that. I wouldn't have capacity to do loads, but I'm definitely keen to help people if they wanted to reach out and get in touch, and see how I can try and help people if this is what they're wanting to get into. Absolutely. So Hindle Investments.
That's just the website, and then just me personally on Instagram. So Ollie Hindle.
Ollie Hindle. Great. Amazing. Thank you so much again for coming on. It's been great to chat.
No, I really enjoyed it. Thanks very much, mate.
Thanks.